So we have our parts constrained in the oil pump assembly, and now I'm going to put a motion constraint on here. That is a gear ratio. I'm going to select the faces of two gears, and they're going to be opposing or reversing, and I'm going to apply it at a 1-to-1 gear ratio. That means that the number of teeth on one gear to the number of teeth on the other gear is the same. 1/2 gear ratio works just the same as a 2-to-1 ratio. So those are working. Now, is this moving with anything? As I move this around, the shaft is moving. So all these parts are constrained together so that as the shaft moves, pin moves, and the main output gear moves. And when I get into the main valve train assembly, I've got a lot more constraints that I need to put on. When I bring in this oil pump assembly, it seems to be fixed, like it can't move. So I need to find this oil pump assembly in the model tree, and I need to make it adaptive or flexible, whichever one allows it to move round and round and round. So this way, this gear can move with the main output shaft. So let's see if we can look at how this is going to work. So now I need gear ratios. I've got two gears here that need to move together. And notice how far apart they are. Essentially, these gears right here are going to move together, and this is going to move from the output shaft. So I'm going to put a constraint on here of motion, another gear ratio, and these are 1-to-1 because both of these are the same. And apply. I'm going to go to the next one, and I have to make sure that they're rotating opposite, so I need to go back and change this one. And then these, and so do I have this one? Alright, so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 motion constraints here, and if I go to my modeling view and I go to constraints folder, go to the very bottom, these are the last that were put on, and the very first one, I'm going to edit that one and make sure that it's going opposite directions. So now when I move my gears, these are all moving together, and these are all moving together. Now these gears need to be moving with the output shaft. So this gear ratio is, I believe, 2-to-1. So let's constrain with the motion constraint. Same thing, opposing sides. I'm going to select this one and this part, and I'm going to make that a 2-to-1 ratio and apply. So now when I move this, it should be moving the same direction, right? So I'm going to go back to this, I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to make it move the same direction. And now when I move it, it's moving correctly. I'm going to do the same thing here, constrain, motion, 2-to-1 ratio, moving the same direction. I'm going to select this largest gear, and once again the spline shaft. And you don't have to select on a surface. So now when I move these, I'm making sure all my gears are working together. Inside the oil pump, we need to get inside there so that we can see there's a major gear in there that needs to move with this. So I'm going to use a slice view, half section view, and I'm going to select somewhere on the top of this part. So I'm going to go back to modeling view, and let's see where my main datums are. Let's do that one. And let's flip it to the other side. That didn't flip, did it? So let's go back to half section view, and I can say which one I want. I can right click and flip section, so I'm going the other way, and this is the way that I want to be able to see that main output gear right here. I'm going to say this and right click and OK, and now it'll stay like this. So now I need a gear ratio motion, and this one has to be 2 to 1 as well. And I'm going to select this gear and this shaft and apply. So now I want to see this thing move. So if this moves, now my subassembly is moving. So if I actually went inside here and I sliced another way or sliced deeper, then I could see this move inside here. So let's go back to view, half section view, and I'll select this datum plane, and I'm going to offset it in a little bit more. Flip section. Alright, we're still not seeing that, so let's go offset a bit. I'm going to flip section again, and I'm going to offset this negative. It won't let me do a negative, so I'm going to have to flip section again, and then I'm going to say how far I'm going to be offset. I'm really not seeing what I want to see here. Alright, so now I'm seeing the gears inside. And so as I move the spline shaft, I want to see these gears moving in here. So, I'll double click on this part. And as I go in here and I've closed that out, now I'm going to double click on this assembly. I'm going to make this invisible. Now I want to see these things move together. I'm going to return. It doesn't let me do that, does it? So now I'm going to start moving this. I want to see these gears moving. So these gears now are not moving. The problem with this not working with this shaft and these gears, these are working together, this is working together, but this gear needs to be constrained to this shaft so that it moves with the other gear. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use an angle. I'm going to use an angle constraint, and I'm going to make my planes move at the same rate. So this is going to be an angle, directed angle. I've got that plane. And my second one, let's grab the shaft. And let's find that one. And so if that stays at 0 degrees to each other at all times, it's stuck. So now, as I move this around, everything's moving together. So as I go back to the assembly, as I move the assembly pieces together, everything is working correctly now. So you have to stick this gear to this shaft so that it all knows how to work. The same goes for the shaft with the large gear. So now I have all those. The next thing that we're going to do is a transition constraint.